All right, time for F. These last three are where the problems get a little bit more complicated. So if you're finding these more challenging, that's normal. But let's keep pushing on, and I think we'll figure out how to do it. We're gonna have to use all of our rules. I'm gonna start shortening my steps a little bit, but know that we're still using the same rules that we used earlier. This one, when I look at it closely, what do I see? I see an x squared, and then I see x squared times sine of x. So what does that tell me? It tells me that my problem is going to need to be a product rule problem. So I'm going to be using the product rule. And when I do a product rule, what's my first part? My first part is x squared, and my second part is going to be sine of x over 2. And so my product rule, I can do this derivative, which is 2x. That one was easy. This one, though, becomes a little bit more complicated because now, inside of my product rule, I have a chain rule problem. So give me just a second. I'm going to pull out another color for us to work on. Okay. So now, what you'll notice is that now I have an inside part. So what does that mean? That means I have to use a chain rule to get this one. So I can no longer just think of this, I can't just do the sine problem simply. I have to do a chain rule where my inside is x over 2 and my outside is sine of x because I have a sine of x put into that. So I'm just going to write down the answer, and I hope that as you do these, and especially as you go through all of your homework problems, you will be able to not necessarily write all the details, but be able to start piecing them together a little bit more quickly as we go through it. Okay, so here's our chain rule. My inside is x over 2. The derivative of x over 2 is, what is it? Well, let's think for just a second. X over 2 is the same as 1/2 of x. So my derivative of the inside is 1/2 times the derivative of the outside. The derivative of the sine is cosine. But instead of writing cosine of x, I'm going to write cosine of x over 2. So notice this was my chain rule. The derivative of x over 2 is 1/2. The derivative of sine is cosine. I keep the x over 2 inside. So what was this problem? This problem, I had a product rule, but inside my product rule, I had to use a chain rule. So I had to combine the two rules together. Okay, so now let's write down my answer. So now that I have my rules written out, I can write down my answer, which is the derivative of the first, 2x, times the second, sine of x over 2, plus, and that 2 looks awful, doesn't it? Okay, plus the first x squared times the derivative of the second, 1/2 cosine of x over 2. And there's our answer, and I would be really happy with this, so you don't need to simplify that.